Every single video that I've seen that claims to answer this question is wrong. I'm sure there's other videos out there that have the same opinion as what I'm about to give you, but I haven't seen any of them. I'm also sure that there are people who will disagree with me, but that's okay because I disagree with them too. Please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel while you're here so that you're notified when new videos come out. So what's this bad advice that everyone thinks is actually good advice? You know it already because you probably watched those other videos too. What did they all say? They said that you should spend no more than X% on your housing. That percentage was probably within the 25 to 35% range, wasn't it? Every one of them said the exact same thing. If that was such great advice, why are you still searching for an answer to this question? It's because percentages don't mean anything to most people. It is also because percentages are useless when considering numbers that span a large range. Sometimes percentages can actually even be dangerous. If you took this standard advice and believe that it's always safe to spend 30% of your gross pay on housing, then you could very well get yourself into a situation where you couldn't afford your other basic needs. If spending 30% on housing means that you can't buy groceries, and you can't afford reliable transportation to get to work, and you can't afford basic insurance needs, and you can't set aside a little bit of savings for a rainy day, then you simply can't afford to spend 30% on housing no matter what any expert says. Now that situation certainly isn't ideal, but there are people who experience it, and there are people who are in the middle of it right now. Finding cheaper housing so that you can also afford your other basic needs should be a priority. Now hopefully this won't last forever, but spending 30% on a nicer or even a quote-unquote safer house isn't going to do much good if you can't afford to eat or you can't afford to get yourself to work. On the other hand, let's say you make $1 million a year after taxes. 30% of that would be $300,000 a year for housing. Now I'm going to attack this one from both angles. First of all, $300,000 a year for housing is a ton of money. There's no reason why you would ever need to spend that much money on housing. You'd definitely be better off financially if you save the vast majority of that and you spend far less than 30% of your income on housing. Perhaps you end up spending only 10% of your income on housing. On the other hand, if you do choose to spend 60% of your income on housing, that's going to be $600,000 a year. Certainly, that is an insane amount of money for housing. But we said that you're making $1 million a year after taxes, so that still leaves you $400,000 a year for everything else. Obviously, you'd still be able to meet your basic needs, plus have a good amount of savings, and even more money still left over after that. So who would have any right to tell you that you can't spend more than 30% of your income on housing? See, percentage answers are useless. So how much house can you actually afford? Well, no video can answer this question with a specific answer. The answer is you have to sit down and figure this out for yourself. We looked at the two extremes, but most likely you're somewhere in the middle. Perhaps you're very close to average. Even in that situation, percentages still don't work because people have vastly different priorities, which is okay. We don't all have to have the same priorities. And if I look at a percentage-based budget that Dave Ramsey gives me, or anyone else for that matter, aren't I simply adopting their priorities? The question is, what are your goals and your priorities? Are you wanting to save 15% of your income every year, or do you want to save 25% of your income? Do you want to give to nonprofits and charitable organizations 5% of your income every year? Or maybe you want to give 10 or 20 or 0%? Do you want to eat all organic foods or shop from the BOGO section and buy cheap prepackaged food? Do you want to cook all your meals at home, or do you want to eat out 5 days a week? Do you want to buy a 5-year-old vehicle and keep it for the next 10 years? Or do you want to buy a brand new car and trade it in every 2 to 3 years? All of these decisions affect how much house you can afford. So where do you start? Everyone should be saving something. Sure, this could be seen as me forcing my priority on you as well, but it's just unwise to not save anything at all. However, I'm not going to force a specific percentage on you, so decide how much you want to save. This should include a minimum of saving for retirement and an emergency fund. It can also include some additional savings for investment if you want it to. Next, figure out how much you need for food. Again, you're going to have to decide how much you cook versus eat out, as well as the quality of food that you purchase, whether it's at a grocery store or a restaurant. More priorities. Next, make sure you can provide for clothing and transportation. Again, decisions that require prioritization. Now you can determine how much you can put towards a house based on how much you also want left over for other things, such as traveling or giving or entertainment. Don't forget to figure out your priorities here too. Do you want a lot of space inside your home? Do you want a large yard? Can your kids share a bedroom? Do you want to prioritize the school district or proximity to downtown? Perhaps you can get what you want with less than 30% of your income. Could you move the order of these around? Absolutely. You could put housing before transportation. You could prioritize a nicer house by choosing to get a cheaper vehicle. So how do we prioritize this? We actually put our charitable giving first. Then we put savings second. Then we put food and housing next. Then transportation. Then everything else. You may have to run through this a few times if everything doesn't add up the first time. My wife and I recently sat down and we put down all of our ideal expenses and saving without regard to our income. Then we added it up to see if it would fit within our income. And it didn't. So the next step we're going to have to do is we're going to have to reduce some things until it fits within our income. We're going to have to make priority decisions, and we won't get to leave everything that we want in there. We'll get everything that we need. We'll get some of our wants, but we definitely won't be able to leave everything that we want in there. No one does. We all have to make trade-offs, and I'm not going to tell you where your trade-offs have to be. You have to do that for yourself. The point is, I want you to do the work to be intentional with your finances. Don't copy some percentage-based budget template. Make the decisions for yourself because that's the only way that you're going to be satisfied with them. Work on it until your income minus your expenses, including money saved, equals exactly zero. Every dollar is accounted for, and you're telling your money where you want it to go. Then actually track it as you spend it to make sure you're sticking to your priorities. And if your priorities change the plan. Look, this isn't set in stone. This is the only way that I recommend budgeting. And I have more videos coming to help you do this, which means you should subscribe so that you don't miss any of them. You can also check out all the videos that I already have by clicking here or here. Thanks for watching.